Hello and welcome to Tour Talk's Coming of Age Party. This is episode 16, and this week is an extra special one for me, as I've managed to coerce my former bandmates from Hell to Pay to come on the show and discuss what life was really like being in a band with me. It was generally awesome catching up with the guys. We had a load of great times together traversing the country, and it was really nice being reminded of some of those stories. Of course, being a young, unsigned band with no guidance whatsoever, disaster was never far away, so there's plenty of funny stories coming your way, good and bad. Sadly, the band never quite achieved what we all hoped it would, and I really appreciate the guys discussing that honestly and openly here on the show. We learned so many lessons, not just as musicians, but as human beings on our little journey, and if there's any young musos or bands listening to this, then please learn from some of our mistakes. The best thing about doing this episode for me is that we're all still able to chat like we're in the back of the van together on the way to a show. If you ever get the chance to be in a band, then take it. It was one of the greatest experiences of all of our lives. New episodes of Tour Talk go live every Monday, so please subscribe, comment, and like if you enjoy what you hear, and help us spread the word by continuing to share this with anyone you think will enjoy. This is Tour Talk.
Hey, I'd like to welcome everybody to our podcast. It's called Three Hot Dudes and Me. This is great. It's great. It's great that everybody showed up super fucking handsome and British, and this is I'm hungover, and this is not a good start for me.
I'm joining you on that one, Nate.
I heard you might have turned it on last night.
Yeah.
As we say.
Ripping and the tearing.
Yep.
Oh well.
Nate, you look great as always, dude. You know that.
Man.
You've got your curly hair going on. And
I like how you hey, guys, does Dario always lie and look so smug when he does it like that? Like, just say the most bullshit thing? Yeah. And he's like, you look great.
I've never heard that from him.
Flexing?
Yeah, I've never said that to either of them, so you should just appreciate the little things every once in a while, all right?
As he takes off his shirt and shows us a six-pack. That's just a great way.
No, not in front of Tom. Tom's got that one for sure.
All right, welcome to the homoerotic show that we
this
run.
Is level
where
one.
We compliment each other, and eventually it leads to the four of us kissing.
Wow. I mean, if you want to set that up, dude, let's go.
Remember I was telling you I had to mind my manners? I just threw that out the window. There you go.
So maybe we should explain a little bit about the fact that I used to be in a band with these guys, and we used to traverse the country trying to play music to people, and had fun occasionally doing that.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, looking back now, it was fun.
Do you think that's a common perspective, especially with music, where you do something and while you're in the middle of it, you're so inside of it that you're caught up in the nuances of it, but then looking back on it, it's such a wonderful, truly wonderful time.
Yeah, 100%. I would definitely agree with that. I think, Dario, we had a brief chat in the week about this sort of thing, and pretty much of the same ilk, didn't we?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I think we all had a really good time at the time.
Yeah.
I don't think we may have realised it as much. And it is quite nice to look back on it all. Whether I would do it again is another matter.
We'd definitely do it again differently, I think, in hindsight.
Very differently. I mean, just the text message conversation this afternoon was more than enough to remind me about, like, the things that I do not miss about being in a band.
Hi, Dan.
So, for anyone who needs any explanation on that, we had a little group chat going about doing this podcast, and the guys coming on and helping me out and having a bit of fun doing it. And surprisingly, for like most part of the week, Dan was quite responsive. Tom, as always, gets a message back to you before you've even sent it. I don't know how you do that, but it's like incredible. So I thought maybe they've both grown up a little and we've developed and we've moved on, and this will be fine. So today, 12 o'clock this afternoon, I thought I'd send a little message out, just make sure that everything's okay. Tom gets back to me straight away. Yep, can't wait. Everything's fine. Like 4 hours later, it's like, oh, maybe I should double check with Dan. Maybe like he's not all right. Maybe there's something wrong. What, was there anything wrong, Dan?
I mean, I was hanging out my ass, but apart from that, no, not really. You didn't address me directly, so I just thought, no, it'd be fine. It'd be
Oh,
fine.
right. Yeah. Never just assume.
I'd just like to leave you hanging, and then at the last minute, I just rock up. As like I used to walk out on stage, just like, I'm here, guys. Don't worry about it.
No, so
Good.
this is very
good.
This is very reminiscent of the time of us being in a band where we do some local shows and we might all drive ourselves there. And you'd send a message out. There were no group messages back then. Like, technology was not that advanced. We're all a lot older than we look. And everybody would be like, "Yep, I've got the address. Everything's fine." I mean, sat navs were pretty ropey as well. But never anything from Dan. He was that rockstar frontman. He would just turn up, plug in, and shred it and kill it, and then just walk out and not lift anything, and that was it.
Yeah, that's the way you need to be, isn't it? Really. I occasionally lifted my own amp. To be fair, there was one time I do remember.
Did you ever help Tom with his drums?
I mean, it was my fault for having such a ridiculous kit. I didn't deserve any help
That's
whatsoever.
true. That is true. And when we had to go back to pick up your octobons because you'd left them at 3 a.m.
When all you guys are doing one trip to the show, I have to do 2 or 3 just to get my gear there.
Do you guys think about having a therapist on instead of me? Would probably be more helpful to that.
I think you're more than qualified, dude.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this will also be therapeutic for you too, so you weren't the only person going through this shit.
Okay, fair enough.
So we were in a band called Hell to Pay that was based in Manchester, and we did quite well for a little time, especially like locally. We had a little momentum. We got on very well with rock radio, and we did a few events for them, as well as somehow managing to tour up and down the country. I don't know whether venues knew what they were getting when they booked us, but we made it happen. So I thought I'd start with my favorite Hell to Pay day, and then it'll all go downhill from here, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
So we'd already done a couple of events for Rock Radio, and they did like big Halloween parties and whatever. And I can't remember why they had one on May the 4th, but I remember it was May the 4th. And they booked us to play an outdoor stage at a local event they were doing, which was essentially for unsigned bands, and we were going to headline this stage. And then they had a load of tribute acts on the main stage, and I think there was a couple of thousand people in there or something. And I think maybe 2 weeks before we were due to play, I got a call from the Muse, who was one of the DJs on the station, and he said, "We've had one of the tribute bands drop out. Do you think you could do us half an hour of something?" To which, we almost immediately answered, "Yeah, we could definitely do half an hour of Steel Panther."
Very good.
Yeah, so obviously we already all had the spandex and everything. We were well set for that. I just remember that our set for Steel Panther was at 12 or 12:30 maybe, like the first band on that main stage. And then we were meant to play like 7 p.m. or something like that as ourselves. So we turn up at 11 o'clock, and the whole thing is being production managed by STS. So Pete Dutton's there, and I think Rich was there, and Dom was there. So a lot of people that we know very well. And there was a bottle of Jack in the dressing room, wasn't there?
Was.
Dan. So I think we managed to drink that whole bottle of Jack before 12 o'clock.
This is getting good.
Yeah, it was not good. It really wasn't. That first set is unequivocally the worst I've ever played on stage. I'm sure of it. So we're
However,
dressed as
it's not the worst you've ever looked on stage. It's probably the best you've ever looked on stage.
I did enjoy it. So 12:30 rolls around. We walk on fully dressed as Steel Panther. We even we'd cut the intro track and we'd got it to front of house in time, so they had the right intro and all that kind of stuff. It kicks off. Dan goes to play the first note, and what happened, Dan?
Nothing. Nothing happened at all. That was the problem.
Why did nothing happen?
But because something wasn't plugged in, or was it the pedals wasn't plugged in?
No,
or...
your amp was on standby.
Oh, that was it, of course. It was going to be one of the two, wasn't it? It was either the tuner's on, the volume knob's not been turned on, or you're on standby still.
Yeah, so we had to... Did we recut the intro again? I can't really remember. It was just very, very
Plowed
painful.
through. Just plowed through.
No, so I think I tried to do something beforehand, and wasn't getting any sound. So while the track was on, I'm running around madly trying to figure out what was going on. And then it was like, it cut, didn't it? And I was supposed to make a sound. There was nothing. But it was like a couple of seconds, and then it kicked in. I managed to, somebody flicked the standby switch on, did a big whammy dive, and it's like, right, there we go. And off we went. You know, we got through it.
All I remember about that 30 minutes was that because we'd actually learned a lot of the talk, the chat that Steel Panther do. And I remember that being really good and going very well. I just remember it musically being absolutely terrible. But people seem to enjoy it. Yeah.
Can I gather this? You guys performed as a cover band of a cover band.
Correct.
Playing their originals. How bizarre.
Wow.
Which were covers, essentially, weren't they? They were like takes on songs. They kind of reimagined.
Parody, yeah. I mean... Wow.
But we had another set to do that day.
Yes, we did. Didn't we?
More
Dan?
drinking.
Apparently.
Did that one go much better?
I've always said that's the worst I've played, but the best frontmanship I've ever done, because I was just 100% going for it. I had my shades on. I was totally in the moment, just absolutely loving life.
Your nipple was out.
My nipples were both were out, I think, at that point. Yeah, but just absolutely smashed it in a non-musical way. Very similar to the Steel Panther show, actually.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You were amazing. You were a spectacle, for sure. It has lived with me for this long.
Well, we'd finished that bottle of Jack off, and then I remember walking around with a bottle of Jack in my jacket for the entire day, just sipping away at it.
You're classy. I'll give you that. You're classy.
I'm very classy.
And Nate, have you ever been so drunk you've screwed the intro to a set? Or I think we've talked about this a little before.
Yeah. Yes. I've been drunk to the point on stage before where I start the wrong song, and the rest of the band's looking at me, and I'm looking at them like, "Hey, you guys are really stupid. Like, this is clearly the song." And then I'll take a double look at the set list and be like, "Oh, I went 2 down." But I think a lot of that for me was early on, not just age-wise, but like early on in playing music, and I think there's a window of time where it's like really acceptable to do that, you know? And then you learn that that's not, but you have to do it. You have to do it to understand why you shouldn't do it. You have to.
Well, the good thing, like for me, I've always known that I can't play when I've had a couple of drinks. So it's always kind of stopped me from doing that in the most part. But I think because we just had such a great time doing the Steel Panther set, it went really well. It's like, oh, we can celebrate. And then it was like, oh yeah, we actually still have to do this as well. So that was that was the thing for me. But the weird thing about that show, personally, I found was that it was far too early to be doing a Steel Panther show. Like 12 o'clock, I've got my mum in the audience 3 rows in whilst I'm singing about anal. And it's just like, sorry, Mum.
How old were you guys then?
24?
Yeah, 23, 24, yeah.
Right. So you know, if you add 10 years to that, it becomes a little worse, and if you add 10 years to that, it becomes it's embarrassing. But I think when you're 23, it's safe to say you're a kid, basically, you know, and that's how you learn.
True.
I'm excusing everyone for this behavior because of my own history, you know.
Yeah, I think my parents were there too, thinking about it.
Darren,
just...
did you, at the top of this, did you say this was your favourite day ever in Hell to Pay?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
good.
definitely
Just
one of the ones
checking.
that stands out. No,
Yeah, it stands out.
He's a masochist.
Yeah, I feel like this pretty much covers what it's like being in Hell to Pay.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Anyone else got any like little standout moments that you can share with everyone so they get an idea of what it was like for being us?
I could talk you through my first ever show with you guys.
Oh, I love this, yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
so
Another drunken conversation.
I was probably never meant to be in this band. So I remember I was I was playing occasionally with a band that came over from Canada. And I remember the first ever show that I saw you guys, we supported you at a venue called the Roadhouse in Manchester.
Which isn't there anymore, sadly.
Is it not? Oh, that's such a shame, man. Good times in that venue.
Very good times.
And I remember seeing you guys headline that show, and I was like, whoa, these are musicians. Like, it was the first time I'd ever heard of you. Dan's voice, Dario's rhythm guitar, so good. Lead rhythm guitar, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're right.
And I think it was maybe a week later. This is like end of May 2009, I think. I get a call off Dario, and he's like, "Dude, what are you doing next week?" I was like, "This is random." And basically, the drummer at the time, our good friend Dom, was he jobbing at Sonosphere or going to AC/DC or something like that?
Nate knows Dom quite well.
Yeah, so Dom had been called out to a show or something, and you guys needed a drummer for a festival in Manchester, and asked if I wanted to do it. So a week later, no rehearsal later.
We must have done one.
I can't think off the top of my head where or when or if, but it was such a short period. It was maybe 1 or 2 weeks away from the show, and I'd not played drums for 5-6 years really, and I was like, okay, opportunity knocks, let's give it a go. And I remember we were maybe the first or second band on this festival at the day. And Chris, the then bass player at the time, I think he'd had a girlfriend come to the show, and
now his wife.
Now his wife. So it was all worth it in the end. This sealed the deal. Yeah. I remember like 10 seconds into the first song, he is blind drunk after decking a full bottle of wine in the middle of the audience. Correct me if I'm wrong on this.
No, but I think to preface it, like we'd said to Chris, because the intro of that song was all like stabs. It's like ba-dum,
yeah,
ba-bam. So we'd said we all just need to kind of get Tom through this first little bit.
Yeah.
We'll do the classic band not facing the audience intro thing, and we'll just get through the stabs. So we're all looking at Tom doing the intro, and then I think we all turn around, and Chris is like bass like sky high, like doing the stabs and in the middle of the crowd. I think he'd sunk like 2 bottles of wine or something.
Yeah, I think his cable had come out. I couldn't hear him, and it just went downhill from there, really.
I think the rest of that gig went okay. I can't really remember too much about it, but I think we did all right.
I think that sums us up, really.
We had an issue with bass players. Dan, do you remember that show?
Oh yeah, I remember that show, definitely. Because all through the day he was just necking wine, and you were just thinking, this is not going to go well. and like you say, like my memory of it is that we were kind of, you know when you just before the gig, and you have that little psych up moment, and you're like, right guys, here we go, let's all get this together. You ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Are you ready? Where's Chris? He just turned around, and he's just like, right in the middle of the audience. Like, no, this is not going to go well at all. So, but no, that was a good one.
Tom, did you say that was your favourite Hell to Pay memory?
It's my earliest.
You got a better one? An actual good time for you?
Oh, there's some pretty good times. Hard Rock Hell was pretty good. So the first time we played a real show.
That's a big gig.
Yeah.
Tom took a leaf out of Chris's book that day, from what I remember.
After the show, though.
What's quite funny is, we were first on that day, right? Yeah, we were. So again, we were on stage at like 12, half 12. So I think we may have had like a little Jaeger or something beforehand. But Tom usually never drank at shows. He always had like football the next morning or had to get back for work or something. So he would.
These were all excuses. I can't play drums sober. So if I ever drink, it just gets even worse. That was the real reason.
So anyway, that gig actually went quite well, I think.
Yeah.
We played quite well. We had a good time. We got a good response. I think we did some press. That all went fine too. But you must have necked like half a bottle of Jaeger in like an hour or something.
Yeah.
But why?
I don't know. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what I was doing.
Is this? Are we doing a podcast or is this an AA meeting?
I think a podcast on touring and music and bands is almost one and the same as
thing.
regular.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
But I'm sure I've got a really good photo of you, like passed out at 6 o'clock, like still in stage gear. I will try and find that and edit that into this. Into this thing.
It was the one time in maybe 6 years, I think. You can have it.
Dan, is that not the show that I made you wear ridiculously tight trousers?
Shout out to Janine for those, by the way.
Yes, you did. So I definitely got the bum end of that deal, literally, didn't I? Oh no, I got the front end of that deal, didn't I?
Well, no, everybody else got the front end of that deal. So basically, this is a lesson to anybody else. If somebody's trying to organize stage clothing, go to the fitting, or turn up and check and make sure that like what they're making for you is suitable attire and is going to fit. Because what happened, Dan?
Well, it fit a little too well, didn't it? Really, that was that was the problem with it. That everybody saw pretty much everything, didn't they, that day? So there were too many heads banging. Let's just say that.
Yeah. There's some great photos of that too.
No,
I don't know whether it's.
It was you got somebody to sort the clothes out, didn't you? And it was basically a mixture of two pairs of pants. One like a really cool set of jeans, and one like skin tight black, almost like leggings.
Wet look.
Yeah, and
Leather.
Two pairs of pants were made with these. And Dario managed to get the one with the nice jeans at the front and the black at the back.
I just wore jeans. I didn't. I made somebody else wear those.
Oh, right. Okay.
I got the really cool cut-off jacket because I went and I was like, I'll have the really cool cut-off jacket, thanks. So yeah, somebody's arse was out. Most of Dan was out. It wasn't.
Everything.
You weren't delighted about it, were you?
No, but the thing was, it was like beforehand. I was like, "Are these pants okay? They seem a bit tight." Yeah, they're absolutely fine, mate. Don't you worry about it. And then you start getting the pictures coming back from the show. You know, the photographers have taken things, and it's a very high quality of basically my cock and balls. But you couldn't crop it out. Like it's just. No. Every picture was like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Sounds great.
I mean,
oh dear.
Nate, you've had some really special stage attire in your time. Any that's been a little too revealing?
Well, mostly it didn't fit properly because I was like 40 pounds overweight. But I think every band kind of naturally goes through that progression of like it's either a discussion or it's not a discussion. And I was in a band that for like 8 years, it was 9-10 years even, it wasn't a discussion. And then it kind of became a discussion as we would see photos of ourselves, and it just, it didn't look good. And then we played Desert Fest once at the Underworld, and I kind of noticed that every rock band in the UK for a little while was either dressed in like retro 70s rock gear or like they look like wizards, like
especially at Desert Fest. Like, I mean, that's like kind of stoner doom behavior,
right,
isn't it? They've all
right,
got the
but also
70s
classic
belt
rock. Yeah, but like all, or like a band wears all black. Okay, fine. So I decided I was going to show up to that festival and wear a matching basically a one-piece matching psychedelic rainbow explosion.
Sequins, yeah?
Yeah, sequins, banana stuff. And it's funny because the people in the crowd really loved it and the press really loved it, but the other bands were like visibly disgusted. Like visibly disgusted that how could I break the code of fashion and like, I didn't look like a Cheech and Chong movie or something, It looked like, I don't know. It was a very strange move that I probably think caused more harm than good, to be honest with you.
I think it's really brave, and I think it's genius. I mean, because one, everybody will have talked about it at some point. It will get a lot of mentions as a result. Good
Sure.
or bad, like press is press, and that's fine. But like, why not? This is rock and roll. Like, the whole point of rock and roll isn't to adhere to a code or a.
I thought so, but there is that weird like herd mentality where bands just start to look like other bands and copy their style and their sound, and I think borrowing is great, but I think the level of plagiarism where it's at right now with everything is just it's insane.
I am
Fashion wise specifically.
I think with a lot of those things though as well, it means everything and nothing as well, doesn't it? Like sometimes you can just get really over the top, constant conversations about what we were and what we, what's going to happen in between these songs. What are all the songs in the right frame of mind? I think sometimes we got a bit bogged down with that, didn't we? Like, had too many conversations about, instead of, like we said before, just enjoying what we were doing at the time. And that's the main thing, isn't it? That you put on a good show.
That is probably one of the best ways I've ever heard it put, and I think that is a problem for most young bands. They think about everything that's peripheral to the one thing that matters, which is writing good songs and having fun. If those two things happen and it's honest and it's real and people will see that, and you could fucking wear nothing on stage, or you could wear wears a match. It doesn't matter if you're thinking about the right stuff. And I personally know from experience, getting bogged down in that other region of like you drive yourself nuts, and then you lose energy and focus on what matters, which is drinking a half a bottle of Jack Daniels and a bottle of wine and vomiting before 6 p.m., which is the point of all of this.
I think it's really hard without direction, and I think that's something that we never really had. We were trying to figure it out as we went along. We didn't have a proper manager at any point. We didn't have anyone really guiding us. We had people helping and throwing us shows, and like people at SES helping us with gear all the time and stuff, but we never had anybody sitting us down being like, here's a trajectory for like the next 2 years. This is what we're going to try and do. Don't worry about X. Don't worry about Y. Just write the best songs and go and record the best record you can, and everything else will kind of fall into place. So I think partially that's my fault, because I wanted to do everything and learn everything and thought I knew what I was doing, and I really didn't. But I think at the same time, it was a very weird place for like rock in the UK over here at that time. Like,
absolutely,
nobody really cared. There wasn't a lot going on. There was a bit of a lull in the whole thing.
The amount of shows we did that we were just insanely different from every other band as well. Where, the lineup would be an indie band followed by a death metal band, then us, then, it would, like, sometimes you think, is the promoter actually thinking about when they're putting these
They're
things
not. Well,
together?
me and Nate have talked about this before, that those promoters are just getting bands who will sell 20 tickets and just put them all on the same show, and then their show sold 80 to 100 tickets, and they don't have to worry about promoting it. That's the venue paid for. They made a bit of money off the top. And it was really difficult at that time because you couldn't get a show without jumping on the ladder somewhere and taking a chance on some of those shows. Although, like, as a result of that, we definitely played a show with a band who had my favorite like death metal band name of all time.
I think we might have the same one. You shoot.
Fetal Juice.
Fetal Juice, yes!
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Yeah. There was a band on a show because we were like very classic rock. I mean, we were not.
No, what was the name of the band?
Yeah, I'm trying to set it up being like, we were very classic rock and not heavy at all. And we ended up playing like on the bill with I think they were a death metal band called Fetal Juice.
Fetal Juice.
Yeah.
Like Beetlejuice, but fetal
Yeah.
You
juice.
got it. You
Yeah.
got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So can I ask you guys, I want to ask the three of you, and I would like each of you to answer individually if we can do that.
Cool.
And we're going to get heavy for a second. We're going to get deep. Dario's so nervous. Look at that. He's taking a drink of water.
Terrified.
I would like to know, looking back at it now, two things. I would like to know your. I'm trying to phrase this properly. I'd like to know the thing that you took away from the experience of playing together. What's the fondest thing that you took from it, or the most positive thing that you're left with? And then what's your biggest regret? You know, those two things. So like, give me a positive and give me a negative from your experience playing together, pursuing this thing together.
You guys can go first.
So that is deep. That is deep. The most positive thing for me was they gave me the chance. These guys gave me the chance to play at being a musician. So for me, the best thing about this whole thing was getting to play cool shows. Like every single show, whether the venue was an academy or I don't want to say a shitty little pub, but a little shitty pub in Aylesbury, every single one had something very different, and we were quite fortunate in a way that we had the grand scale of venues pretty much on a loop. So I don't know if Dario's filled you in, Nate, but we'd do some good shows in good venues for a couple of weeks, and then we spend the rest of the year cycling through pubs and clubs, playing 2-hour sets, integrating our own stuff into covers that we enjoy playing. So
I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah,
I did that for years.
Yeah, and I just think playing music that you love, integrating your own stuff that you love even more, that was the best thing for me, to be honest. Just actually playing live shows to people that sometimes gave a shit.
What about the negative, Tom?
Can you come back to me on that?
All right, we'll do a round of positives. Dan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Round of positive.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Like, one of the things I missed most afterwards, because it did get quite tough, and we were always so busy, and it kind of bogged us down, I think, with the amount of gigs that we were doing. But the one thing I do miss is that, like, one of the last shows was at the Academy, wasn't it, supporting Snake Charmer?
Yeah.
And just being on stage and seeing, like, the front row of people with, like, Hell to Pay tops on, singing the songs, and just having a great time, and to go from that to not having that I found that really tough, to be honest. But like, that was a massive positive for me, that because we'd gone from, like you say, doing all these pub gigs where nobody really cares, or you play a show and half the people have left because the band who their mate's in has already played, so they've already left, and you're left with half an empty, venue. And so it was great right towards the end, seeing those people really enjoying everything. And I do have another positive, but it was kind of mixed in with the negative. So that would be the camaraderie that we kind of got together. We always had each other's back, and that was really great. But the negative was that I had to hang around with you lot as well. And so there's both sides to that coin, but no, I do miss all those things.
I think for me, and it took me a long time to learn this, that playing, whether it be a rehearsal or a show, or whether it be songwriting, like sitting around jamming or whatever, is generally the time that I am most grounded and most focused on what I'm doing ever. And looking back at those times, especially like on stage and stuff with you guys, and there are like little ethereal magical moments where everything just clicks for a minute, and it's generally like Dan doing something ridiculous and everybody else looking over going like, wow, just stop being so talented for a fucking minute, Jesus. But those, like, you can't buy those anywhere else. Like, you can't do anything that like replicates that. And especially when you're out playing your own songs, it doesn't really matter how many people are there. And this is why I include rehearsals and all the rest of it, because you have those little moments throughout, and you can't replicate that anywhere. Or I haven't done that so far. So in terms of what I really enjoyed about being in a band, an original band, and playing those shows with you guys is that, I mean, because we've talked about it as well, Nate, that the show is like 5% of your day. Like, and we would go to work, come home, not shower, go to a gig, turn up to the gig, for do the load in, sound check, do the show, and then go home, not shower, and then do it all again the next day. And it was literally those little moments that get you through all the rest of it. Really, I think is what I have really taken from not doing it. That's what I kind of look back on. So that's my positive, for sure.
I think also too that when you're in the middle of it, for me personally, I thought that was going to last forever. You don't realize that it can come to an end in a day or 20 years. You don't know when you're doing it what the end result's going to be. So looking back at it now, I think I took it for granted in the sense of like, let's just even say it was the pandemic that was the end of shows for a while. It's like, wow, like you don't know when you're bitching about loading the Ampeg up the 2 flights of stairs. You think, all right, well, you know what, this load-in sucks, but there's going to be a million more that could be better. And that's just like, what a crazy way to think about it. It should be like a privilege to load those amps up the stage, because who gets to do that,
Well, I think this is what's great about those bands that stick it out, because they get through all the shit ones, and they really do deserve it, because there'll be a million bands that did it for as long as we did. And it must have been 6, 7, I don't know how many years, a lot of time, until we kind of eventually thought we'd had enough. But those bands that do it for 20 years and stick at it, and then it finally then they're all the best load-ins of their life. They finally kind of got there. Like, I have a lot of admiration for that, because I think that kind of is where we broke a little eventually. I think that's what bogged us down, and I think a lot of bands probably get to that point and then they can't go any further.
6 or 7 years, though, is a very, very, very... That's something to be really proud of. I mean, that's a long time to hold a group of guys together making shit happen.
Yeah, we lived together for a while as well. I mean, you've no idea how hard that was.
That was my negative.
Okay.
Definitely my negative.
Please kick it off with the negatives.
So literally, probably the only negative that I could say about the band, these 3 guys, myself included especially, was living together was probably the best idea, but the worst thing that could have happened. It was just too much. Like, we were all working very different jobs at the time on the side. So I think Dario was teaching guitar and waiting. Dan had an actual 9 to 5. I was working in a bar. So all our schedules were completely all over the place. So we were never really all available unless we were at a show.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of friction when we were all at home. So there was no sort of space to yourself, or it was very intense. And I think we went into it with the idea that it'll be so good. We can write all day, we can record demos, we'll be the best friends ever. And it didn't quite turn out like that. All went in with the best intentions, but I think it was just a little bit too much for our immature little brains at the time.
Yeah. No, definitely. That was a mistake. Because it just sounds so rock and roll movie, doesn't it? Like, it's like, oh, we all live together and we write together and we work all the time and then we play shows and we get hammered and we party and it's great. But yeah, I don't think any of us really understood what it would be like being around each other all the time. I mean, me and Dan had lived together before and that was hard enough.
Yeah.
It's
that thing though, isn't it? That like any kind of, sometimes you have to say something about like musically, like if somebody's not getting something, or you have to have that conversation, but you still live with each other, so you constantly, you can't just walk away from it. You can't have that conversation and just walk away because you're all there. And similarly with things that you have with living with somebody as well, it's like I'm fucking clean the dishes again. That was actually me, but all the time. But then you can't just go out the door because you end up going to a show and playing with each other anyway. Yeah. So, do you remember when I left the that silver box on the front doorstep though? Did a gig and I had like a little like silver like
little mic
carry
case.
Oh yeah, with all my leads and everything and my foot pedals and everything. Got to a show and it wasn't there. And in fact, I think I'd been working and you guys had like packed most of it. But I'd like took this case, left it on the front doorstep, but got to the show. I was just so angry. I was just like, fucking guys, I can't believe you've not packed my carry case. Like, where is it? I got home and it's just sat on the front doorstep as we pulled up in the van. Like, yeah, that's where it is. Yeah.
So you're saying that was your fault?
Oh yeah, it was definitely my fault. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was plenty that was your fault, but that one was mine.
No, that's a given. I just don't think any of us understood that you need space from each other. I think we were so in the cycle of we have to do this, we have to put as much into it, we have to commit as much as we can to it, that no one... I mean, I've certainly learned the value of like space, not from just people, but in terms of bands not doing stuff and being away for a while, because I think the other thing that we did was just play all the time, which is what everybody tells you to do. But it turns out that like if you don't play for 6 months, if people actually gave a shit in the first place, they give more of a shit when you come back and do something different. So again,
imagine after 6 years out.
Yeah.
We're coming for you, Grand Central.
I like where this is going.
Dan,
And moving on.
At least we didn't live with any of the many bassists that we had over the years, because that could have been terrible.
I can't even imagine. I don't even know which one to start with. No. I don't really want to go there.
No.
I do think it's really interesting from I'm the outsider here, obviously, and hearing what you guys all are proud of and all regret. It's very similar, you know what I mean? And isn't that the true beauty, right? Of like, that's how you know you guys were actually on the same page in the end, is that you look back on it and you have a very similar experience. And I think that's really, really, without getting too mushy, I think that's a very beautiful and rare thing.
We all wanted the same thing.
Yeah.
We just had no idea of how to get there, I think was the problem. So
No one does, though. You know?
No,
That's the
no.
truth.
No,
one knows how to get there going into this.
No, of course not. I mean, and you just believe that you can do it. I mean, I think we spoke to Matt from Mason Hill about that you sit in the van and you talk about the times that you're going to headline X festival or sell an album that goes in the top 20 or everything, and you just believe it because that's what you do. Like, you just believe it's going to happen. So we obviously had that kind of same thing too. And then when it doesn't happen and it starts chipping away over time, then it gets harder, I suppose, to keep believing that. But Dan, what about your negative? If you've got one, I mean, it was such a wonderful time.
Yeah, it was. No, like I say, I said before, the kind of definitely the whole house thing didn't quite work out the way I wanted to, and but I think for me, we kind of touched on it before as well, was the fact that I wish we'd just spent more time just playing shows of our own music, and not spent so much time. Obviously, you've got to raise the funds to pay for the van, pay for the EPs, pay for the album. You know, all these things you've got to find a way to fund them.
Yep.
But I just kind of I wish that we hadn't spent so much time doing so many cover gigs and chucking one or two in, because even if you're only playing to 3 people, if you're playing your own show with your own tunes, it's a completely different animal, you know, and it feels so different rather than kind of going through the motions sometimes when you're playing All Right Now for the 3rd, 4th time that week, and you know it's completely different when you're on stage and you're totally in the moment with something that is your baby, essentially.
Yeah, a point to prove. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need to win people over with All Right Now and Here I Go Again and whatnot. But when it's your own stuff and your baby, the passion's there, innit? Regardless.
Yeah. And I think that's also the hard part as well, pouring your heart out into these songs and then you're kind of sharing that with the world, and you do shows where just nobody cares at all, you know, and I think that's a really tough thing to get over, and I think that's why the flip side that my positive was when you see those people with the t-shirts singing the actual lyrics to your own song, it's a completely different, you know, feeling.
Yeah, I think there's loads of lessons here for any young bands of like what not to do,
Yeah,
and I think
right.
a big part of what we didn't get right was balancing the art with the business, because if you wanted to get anywhere, it is a business, and you have to, like Dan said, we didn't have money, so we had to go and play shows to make money, to pay for like getting t-shirts printed, getting EPs made, recording time, paying for the van, paying for the endless repairs on the van, all that kind of stuff. So I think, again, like, direction early on of like having somebody around, because this is the really difficult thing. And again, we never really spoke about managers when we did that whole breakdown of the music industry, but like there's a lot of people out there who, one, say they're a manager when they're not, and they're just involved in the industry and they're just trying to make their way in. And there's probably a lot of people out there who want to rip off bands or try and take advantage of them, but there are some really good people out there who could really help. And I think what we really missed was having somebody who knew about the industry and could say, look, you need to stop doing these cover shows. Fuck paying for the van. Just why don't you all just work extra and pay for it and use your time that way, and then spend more time at home writing and stuff. Because my big regret is the record, was the album, because we just didn't do it properly. Again, that was a thing I thought we could do ourselves, more or less, and get someone in to help us record it, but I didn't have a clue how to record a record. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know, you know what I mean, at all. And we didn't have enough money to do it properly or the thing is, we'd done a couple of EPs, and especially the second one, we'd paid quite a lot of money and it sounded pretty terrible. And that was off advice from a friend of who to use, and it didn't go very well. So I thought, well, fuck it, we'll just go do it ourselves and with somebody that we trust. But we didn't have enough time. We needed somebody in there who really understood how to make a record. We needed a producer. So I wish, one, I'd had somebody there to tell me, you need a producer, and two, I wish we'd had a producer, because I think the songs were good. Yeah. I really do. Again, we probably needed somebody looking through demos going, no, this doesn't make sense. No, this arrangement isn't quite right. But I think the bare bones of what we had was definitely worth working with. I
think that's just to cut in there. I think like that one of the hardest things about like looking back now is that the album, the artwork looked great, the songs were good. It was kind of, everything was there, but the actual recording, it wasn't quite up to scratch. And now that that's all gone, I kind of just wish I had that thing I could go back to and just be like, well, at least we did this, and wish at least we had that great album. And it was a great album, just, it just fell down on the actual recording in the end.
Yeah, and it just needed somebody in there saying that, no, you haven't played that well enough. No, do that again. No, this is what we're looking for. 100%. And yeah, I mean, I really missed that. I really wish that I had that too. That thing of like, at least, we've got this record and it sounds great. I haven't got a recording that I'm on that I like the sound of. So I can't listen to that album. I don't know if you guys have at any point, but I can't listen to it.
I listened to it again recently. And it's great because they love the songs and it brings back a lot of memories, but it just wasn't quite there.
Quality-wise not there, is it?
But we had some good fun doing it. I remember still trying to figure out lyrics, like on the day of recording, like frantically scribbling in a pad, trying to finish.
Maybe it's time to try to put that one last nail in the coffin and make one track that you're super proud of together before it's too late to do it.
I think now, especially after the last year, that like nothing is off the table. I would be kind of open to doing anything. It's funny, like because obviously I knew this. We were having this conversation, so last night was the first time I ever sat down and played anything remotely rock-ish that might be like Helter Pay worthy. And there was a couple of bits. I'm not saying any was any good or not, but like I definitely wouldn't say no to anything anymore after this last year or so. I would be quite open to considering, because what I really learned through all of it is that I really do miss playing in a band. I'm playing guitar, and like I miss the rehearsals as much as the rest of it, which surprised me. So yeah, you never know. You never know. I don't know who would care, but at least we would have ticked a box.
Yeah.
See, that's the whole point. Isn't that the whole point of the conversation is who cares? Who cares? It's just about doing the thing that makes you guys happy, and you're doing it together, and don't think about anything else. Write a kick-ass riff, play some drums, write some lyrics at least 2 days before the recording, and fucking sing your ass off, and just write a song. I mean, that's the beauty of this thing, is that you can create something out of nothing and there's no other expectation.
Nate, can you play bass?
Honestly, compared to what you guys have described your past bass players being, yes, I can, and I would be honored to play on a Hell to Pay song.
You'd be wasted on the bass, Nate. You'd be absolutely wasted.
I do backup vocals too.
I tell you, one thing I did used to enjoy is that whole lyric writing process. I mean, Dan used to write a lot of the stuff, but I think we'd always sit down and kind of work through it. And there is nothing funnier than going through someone else's lyrics and trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that? Was that ever like a combined thing, Nate, with you? Did you ever write lyrics for someone else, or?
I mean, in the first 5 or 6 years of Lion Eye stuff, Hank wrote 99% of the lyrics.
Oh, wow.
And then I slowly started to kind of bring stuff to the table, and then by the time we had gotten to our last 2 records, it 100% flipped. I don't like reading and writing. I don't like correcting other people's stuff, but I also don't particularly like singing other people's lyrics. It's not for me. You know?
Dan?
Yeah, I agree with that, because it's quite hard, because you write your own lyrics and it means something to you, and then to pick up somebody else's lyrics, it's a bit more difficult. They maybe not phrase things the way that you would have maybe phrased them. Dario wrote some great lyrics, but he always tried to put far too much into a line. It's like, we're gonna have to cut some of these. We're gonna have to cut some of these words out to the point where it doesn't make sense anymore. So, but no, I found that as well. And yeah, like I say, it is different because it's your baby. It's your little thing. But I always found as well that every song was like, right, guitar riff's done. That's the easy bit done. Oh, I've got a really nice kind of melody to go over that. Right, let's put some lyrics on there. Nothing. Like, that was always the difficult bit for me.
Yeah, because you're missing out the 6 months you worked on the solo for it.
That is true. That is true. Riff's done. Let's play that over and over again until I've got the squealy.
That's it. Man, yeah.
Have we got any good memory? I'm sorry, I'm stealing your.
Are you can host it now. You can host it. It's fine.
No, I just wondered if you guys had any like standout memories, not good or bad, but just something.
Ripper, mate. Back to the whole bass player thing.
Yeah.
I think we were doing 2 shows in a day, weren't we? We played a show in Nottingham early in the afternoon or something. I think we then went to Hooters for wings, and then we drove back from Nottingham to Manchester to do. It was the only Hooters in the country at the time. It might still only be the only one.
No, it's probably that doesn't even exist anymore. I think they all went out of business.
Oh wow, really?
It's still there.
Yeah. Oh
It's still
wow.
there.
So I can't remember why, but like on the way back, I just remember coming over the top of the M62, which was actually quite nice that one day. It's the highest motorway in the UK, isn't it? And you're on top of the Pennines. And Trig just cracking open a can of Monster, but I think it might have been his 3rd of the day. And that Australian accent, I don't know where it came from, but he was full on.
It was wild.
Full on. And that's how he would announce that he was opening another can of Monster. Oh, another can of Ripper, mate! And that was it. So that's my standout memory.
not the most inappropriate thing he ever said, but
the most appropriate thing he ever said, for sure.
Yeah.
Can't possibly say anything else. Christ.
How about you, Tom?
For me, I think one of my favourite memories would be the album launch show at, was it Ruby Lounge? That was pretty cool. I think that was the biggest audience that we had that was solely there to see us. And I think that show went pretty well as well.
Well, yeah, apart from not having the album ready. Show went fantastic.
Why would we?
Well,
yeah, but we had a pre-order spreadsheet. That's fine.
We had a pre-order spreadsheet. I had a pre-order spreadsheet that I.
It's a team game. It's a team game.
So I think this is just indicative of like what the show was great. I think we did like 150 tickets in Manchester or something. We did. So this is how I ended up getting into the other side of the business, is because we would put on, after the whole bullshit of being put on these random bills with promoters that were just didn't really care. Like we just started doing our own nights in Manchester instead. So I think the first one was at Crack. The Arc Gallery, and we had like massive wagons open for us that night or something. That was a really good night. And then that one was at the Ruby Lounge, and I think we played there a couple of times anyway, but I think we did like 150, 200 tickets on our own that night, and we played the album in full, and it was and Dan saved all his drink until after the show. Wasn't it your birthday as well?
I think it was.
It
yeah.
was.
It was Dan's birthday. Yeah, that was a good night. Are you asking this question because you've got a favourite, Dan?
Oh, I've got a list. One of them was the Top Bell in Leighton Buzzard with Crow Whitesnake.
Crow Whitesnake, what a guy.
What a guy, what a name. But it was, so we played the show. Was it that place where we played the show and we were like, should we pack down everything now? And they were like, oh, you can just kind of move it to, into the corner if you want to and leave it up. It'll be fine, because we were staying there anyway that night. But we didn't know there was kind of like a DJ night on after us, and the next thing, the whole place was just packed, wasn't it? Like people falling into the drums and all sorts. So we effectively had to be like security around all of the gear. That was a crazy one.
This is while Trig was trying to sell signed copies of our EP for 20 quid.
Yes.
And selling them impressively.
Amazing. So that one, do you remember Izzy Ryder? The guy, was it in Northampton? Just a random guy like hanging around while we were setting up and sound checking before a gig. He comes over and he's like, "Hey guys, how are you? What's your name?" "Yeah, Dan. What's your name?" "Dario." Like, want to know what my name is? Izzy Ryder. And we were just like, right. I'm no longer talking to you anymore.
Is this just a list of people we've met along the way?
Yeah, pretty much. No,
Keep going.
One,
interesting name.
The last one is me managing to lock the keys in the van when we were in Nottingham. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
You were all really happy with me that day, weren't you?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure I blew the head gasket in our van driving into Nottingham one time, so I can't really give anybody any shit for anything about that.
True. Oh, no. I'm not done. Stumpy.
No!
Yes.
We need to set this up, Dan. So, Nate, the first night of our first ever tour, like months in
Who
preparation.
booked that tour?
We did as a team. Led by team captain Dario. So the first, okay, yeah, you can take the credit for this then. The first night of the tour, second night of the tour, we get to the venue. It's double booked. Of course it is. We get there to try and load in. There's already a show happening.
Well, no, it was a band practice, wasn't it? Like a terrible punk band.
Yes, it was.
Doing a band practice.
That's how well that second show had sold.
So, basically we had to park around the back, and it was one of those where they have, basically little stumps of wood to like segregate the car park. And Dario somehow had managed to reverse over one of the stumps, but managed to get it wedged in between the wheel arch and the tyre of the van. And no matter what we did, we just couldn't get the van out. We were there for over an hour, weren't we, Dario? Move forward, turn the wheel this way, turn the wheel that way.
That's quite interesting to know. Because Dario loves to dole out shit about other people's driving and things they do to fuck up vehicles, and it's it sounds like he's got a couple things under his belt.
Thin ice for you, buddy. Thin ice for you.
So in the end, we had to go into the venue and borrow a saw and cut out.
And the fact that they had a saw is wild. That is wild.
Yep. We had to cut it out, and it came on the tour with us, didn't it? For the rest of it,
sure did.
Stayed in the back of the van. This is where the picture of us outside holding Stumpy pops up on the podcast.
Yeah.
But the other good thing about that night, though, as well, was the fact that happened, and the show got cancelled, and we had all the shit with the van and trying to get that off. And then we ended up just playing a show. So one of our friends who'd come worked in a pub, made a few phone calls, and it was like, right, we can go and do a show there. And we ended up just going there, had a load of drinks, played a kick-ass show, and it saved the night, didn't it, really?
Yeah.
What I do remember about that second part of the night is we were on tour with a band called Whiskey and Lace, and I remember Rob Rocks and Phil Myth doing the lift from Dirty Dancing in the middle of that.
Yeah.
It was very, They ended up on Pointless. I don't know if you ever saw that, but that was quite a sight.
I've got a highlight for you. So, no.
Hey, sorry, before you do this, guys, I have to jet really quick, but I don't think you should stop. I have to roll out right now, but I think I do.
You've endured enough, I think, definitely.
No, it's not that. I promise you. I've overbooked myself, but please continue to do this. Please keep taping, and it's been an amazing pleasure, but this has actually been one of my favorite ones to do because I say that every time, but I actually mean it because listening to you guys talk as a band and being outside the band has given me so much perspective now on my own experience being in a band and having
to quit.
No, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving because I want to. I'm leaving because I have to. But it's honestly been amazing. So I just wanted to stop it real quick and thank you guys. But please keep going. And Dario has to do the cup thing. There's a whole thing that's got to happen right now.
Yeah. So we should bill you for a therapy session then if this has been good for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's been great for me. Please send the bill. You can actually send the bill to Dario. He'll handle it for me.
All right. Cheers.
I'm gonna jet, guys. You guys keep going though. I do not think it should stop right now.
I feel like there's an entire list of things to give me shit about, so don't worry. This will keep going.
All right, guys. I'll see you soon.
Dude.
Really,
Nice
really
to
good
meet
to talk
you.
to you.
Cheers, buddy.
Lovely
Bye.
to meet you.
Oh, now I'm nervous. Go.
Do you remember a venue called the Air Hostess in Tollerton?
Air
Yes.
hostess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
so
do.
the first time we ever played there, we turn up, it's a grandma's living room, and it's empty.
Yeah.
Stage time is 6 p.m. 5 to 6.
On a Sunday.
On a Sunday afternoon in Nottingham, the arse end of nowhere, and the room is empty. And we're like, cool. Barman's just like, don't worry. They book them and they will come. And literally on the dot 6 o'clock, an army of Lemmys turn up. Everybody dressed as Lemmy. And the one thing that sticks out from that show was it was maybe the first show we'd played War Pigs, which for me was pretty challenging counting because I suck. But even worse when the whole pub are banging on the tables to completely out of time. And I'm like, shit! Somewhere around here. That was a pretty good.
Do you
show.
remember that? Yeah, because it was literally all the way
You
through.
got
Oh
it.
no, my camera's fucked. You guys might have to talk for a minute whilst I fix this.
For me, the air hostess was always a weird one because it was one of the it was quite far, wasn't it? And I think
Yeah. 2-hour drive.
it was one of them that I always like. Oh, can't be bothered going up to Tollerton to play the air hostess in that pub again.
Yeah.
Every time we did it, I absolutely loved it. Like 'cause
Yeah.
the people just absolutely made it.
Yeah.
And they loved the music. It was
Proper.
fantastic. That was a great one. While you brought up Whiskey and Lace, Dario, I'm gonna have to. My favourite memory was I can't remember the name of the place, but it already went off to a bad start when we got there and the sign said "Hell to Play."
Hell to play.
We're playing.
In big writing outside it's the one venue that we did on those like pub shows that actually bothered to put our name outside. But they got it wrong.
I'm sure we'd already
In
played
fact-
there as well.
Well, the thing is, no, that Hard Rock Hell that we did also called us Hell to Pay with a 2.
Yeah.
So, like,
Shocking.
yeah, it's not very difficult, is it, guys? But still. Anyway, continue, please.
And so Whiskey and Lace were on before us, and the landlady was not happy with them at all. For some reason, she just took umbrance with them and didn't like them. Came over to us after they'd done like maybe 2 or 3 songs and were like, these guys, we can't have these playing. You need to get them off the stage, and you need to start. And it was like, well, they've just started. We're going to have to go and tell them this. So eventually, I think it was you, Dario, eventually plucked up the courage, went over and told them, you're going to have to cut the set short. And they used to do...
Yeah, Rob Rocks is quite an intimidating guy
He
like,
is,
when he's
he
in
is.
full flow.
Oh, definitely.
Did not want to...
And they used to do a Bee Gees cover, didn't they? Was it Staying Alive?
It did, yeah.
That they used to do. And the landlady's there telling them to get off, stood at the back of the room. And I just have images of Rob getting to that middle bit and he's just singing, "We're going nowhere," staring her down in the face. Like, this is going to kick off any minute. But yeah, that was a good one.
It was. I remember that vividly for sure. So both of you still are actually involved in playing. Like, you aren't in original bands anymore, but like you do some Went and cover work, Dan, and obviously Tom plays in some tribute bands as well. And we've already kind of touched on that it's not quite the same doing it. I mean, are there different things about it that are better? Do you enjoy stuff on this side of things compared to doing your own shows, like with your own band, or
Definitely not better, but different, but still good. Less pressure. It's sort of just turn up and play, have fun, get to be Tommy Lee for a couple of hours. Great songs that everybody loves regardless. But it's completely not the same now, as Dan probably knows.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, the positive about it is that you've got loads of people that are just absolutely loving the night, and
Yeah.
that was the flip side. That the hard part of being an originals band is that a lot of the time, a lot of people don't care about your music, and you're playing to people that may not be into it. But you do a cover show and everybody's loving life, and you know, you can't say how nothing is as good as a great show where everybody's enjoying it and you're in the moment. And it's not the same as, you know, when you're doing your own music, but to see people just genuinely enjoying themselves and getting off on what you're doing is great as well. So it's really good to still be playing and performing in front of people, because that's where I feel really comfortable on stage, you know.
Yeah.
So how's this last year been for you then? I mean, because I haven't played a gig in 6 years, maybe, since that last Tell the Pay one. I think I've played a show. I've maybe got up on stage and played it, like with Nate. I played a couple of songs for Lionels on that tour, but I've never played a full show in 6 or 7 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so this last year has been no different to me in that regard. Obviously, I haven't been involved in any shows, which is what I'm missing, the traveling and the being part of a big event and making people's night. But how's it been not actually playing for you both? Because especially, like, Dan, you, with the whole wedding season and stuff, you do a lot of shows in a short space of time.
Yeah, I think the whole situation didn't make it any easier. Like, I think I was at when the pandemic started, I was at the point where I am kind of probably pushing myself too much, trying to fit too many things in, and maybe if I'd have been able to just go out and just have a good time and you know, enjoy that time off, it would have been a bit different. But kind of instantly realized how much I miss it, and like I say, nothing gives you the same buzz as being on stage and performing. For me anyway. So yeah, it has been really hard, and I'm just raring to go now. Like, you know, I think that's a really good thing about all this. It kind of makes you take stock of the things that you maybe took for granted, or the things that you didn't realize you were going to miss when they weren't there.
100%.
Yeah.
So will you do it the same? Will you be as committed, do as many shows? Will you do the same type of shows, or has this been like a time that you maybe want to thought about doing original stuff again, or are you quite happy doing all of that?
Both, really. I mean, it's one of them, isn't it? Like, I was thinking that I'm not going to do as many shows, but then you start getting people trying to book you, and it's like, oh well, yeah, go on then, go on. I've missed it so much that. So the diary's getting pretty full.
Excellent.
And that means less time to be able to focus on original stuff. But as we were saying before, yeah, I definitely want to get back into doing some more stuff. Just for me though, this time, you know what I mean? Like I said, I don't miss all those conversations about, is this right? Is it fitting a certain demographic or things like that? I just want to do what I want. You know what I mean?
Just write a good song.
100%.
Exactly. Having a good recording would be very, very good.
Tom,
What's the question?
because obviously for you, Well, it's obviously been harder for you because you haven't been able to do your day job either. So you've had
yeah.
no shows and no real job. So like,
The
are
show,
you as committed to going back to doing as many shows as possible once it's all back to normal?
I'm in quite a good position that I don't do a load of shows when we are in the real world. So it's sort of each one's a bonus. Maybe it's 5-6 a year at the moment, but I look forward to them all. They're all usually great. The people that I'm working with are great, and it's just like a good weekend away. But doing that, getting back into that for the last, obviously before the pandemic started, like it was a year before that, it brought the buzz back to be playing a little bit more again, but not as intense as we were doing it back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it has brought the joy back a bit, and the pandemic does make you miss things that you didn't think you missed, and I just want to continue doing things that I love, and playing live shows especially is the best thing about being a musician. 100%. So I would definitely play whatever shows came my way, hence stepping in tribute bands.
Gee, I mean, I've only just realised that, like, have you put that Helter Pay wall together behind you just for this show, or is that like a actual feature in your house? That's incredible.
Yeah, so this is just bought a new house, so I've been meaning to do this for a while. I thought this was a good reason to do it for.
I never thought I'd make it onto your wall. I can see me. Well, I can see my hair, which pretty much all I was in my 20s was a big ball of hair.
It's Dan's penis that we were talking about. Literally.
You should see the shrine to it just out of shot. Lit candles and all stuff.
No, it is in shot. It's just that small that you can't see.
All right.
Hey, you never gave me your favorite like Helter Pay gig, Dan.
Favorite Helter Pay gig? I mean, Tom falling through that stage was
fuck, I forgot.
Pretty fantastic.
I've still got the scarf on that.
That was on my birthday as well. Like, I got so many treats that day. It was unbelievable.
That was fantastic. But I think my favorite show would probably be, was it the first? It was the Halloween. No, it wasn't the Halloween one. It was the first rock radio Monsters of Mock.
With the burger. Do you remember the burger?
Oh yes, I do remember the burger. I'll let you explain that one though, Tom.
So explain what the gig was, and then I'll fill in.
Yeah. So it was from winning the Rock Radio Battle of the Bands, wasn't it?
It was.
We got to open up for, it was a Monsters of Mock type thing, wasn't it?
So they was at a 1,500 cap venue in Manchester called the Ritz, and they had like a sold out Mock Fest tribute thing. So there was a Metallica tribute band on, a Kiss tribute band on, a couple of others I can't really remember. I know the Metallica one's important, isn't it? But so that's what it was. It was like because we won their Battle of the Bands, they asked us to go and open that show at the Ritz, which was really cool.
And yeah, it was just so good. Like probably the most people that we played to, certainly up to that point.
Yeah.
But just felt like an absolute rock star as well. Like having the little green room downstairs and being treated like a VIP the whole night. Page 3 girls taking pictures with them, and it just felt like this is it. This is what it's like, to be an actual
100%.
rock star. And it was, I think, that for me was probably the best one. Go on. Anyway, what's the burger again?
So we were exploring the venue pre-show, and the dressing rooms were underneath the stage, weren't they? So you went down some stairs, along a couple of corridors, and we all walked into the dressing room, and there was half of Kiss getting their stage gear on, and a conversation between the bassist from Metallica and someone from another tribute band, and he was asking if he wanted to see his burger, and this guy was like, okay, whatever, let's see your burger. And it was the strangest thing to this day I think I've ever seen. He drops keg, ball, dick, ball. What the fuck?
Squish.
Yeah. What the fuck? Yeah. No matter how hard I try, I can't get that out of my mind.
Well, it's because you took a photo and that's probably on the other wall, I'm assuming.
Nah. Strange.
So, two other things I remember about that is Ash Bevan, who was our bass player at the time, trying on Gene Simmons's boots backstage. I think there might be a photo of that somewhere. I'll try and dig that out. But Ash is he's smaller than me, so he's maybe 4'10", 4'11" at best. And these shoes are pretty much the same size of him. So he's like climbing into one of them as if it's his home. It was amazing to see. And the other thing that I remember about that show is that, or maybe that's the Halloween one, but I just remember that there were these promo girls there who were doing promo for one of the newspapers, and I was actually getting on quite well with one. And I asked Rob, our wonderful editor, if I could borrow 20 quid to go at the bar to get us a drink. Can you guess what Rob said?
No.
Rob said no. Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't lend me 20 quid. I was just stood there, like, open mouth, like, Rob, I need this. This could, this would really make my night. I feel like there's a real connection here. This is great. Denied. After that, like, obviously I'd got him into the show for free and his new girlfriend, who we were very pleasant to that evening.
Good lad,
Come on, Rob.
Good lad, Rob.
Just all I needed is a little help.
Why is Rob not on this, by the way? We should have definitely got Rob on here, because we should have got a groupie's perspective for the band. So,
maybe we could do another little segment for the Patreon or something. But yeah, let's not get Rob on camera. Nobody needs that.
Too much sheen from that forehead.
So before we wrap it, like, it's been a lot of fun, and I think we did have a lot of fun. I think we've obviously gone through a lot of stuff that we got wrong. Is there any other lessons for, like, people starting out in bands or, like, young kids who want to be in bands, like, do's and don'ts from what we got right or wrong?
I think, like we said before, you've just got to be yourself. You've just got to enjoy the time while you're doing it. Try and live in the moment as best you can, and appreciate those times, because you don't know when they're going to go. Don'ts, I think, definitely don't try and do a Christmas photo shoot, because that was pretty horrific.
That was bad.
I'm sure some photos will be showing up right now with them.
That was bad.
And also, don't go on a ITV reality show, or what was it, BBC 4 reality show.
Oh, wow, I forgot about that. Ow.
Absolutely amazing. So, basically, have we been asked to kind of... Had they sold it as we were mentoring the band, or we were going to kind of critique the band?
Mm-hmm. I remember the premise now. It was like a really girly girl swapping friendship groups with this metalhead. Wow.
But we didn't know about this. So she had to do a death metal show, didn't she? Like, at some point in the future. They were trying to get her up to speed with it. And they'd asked us to go in to critique them, but actually it was to see if we could figure out who was the odd one out in the band.
Yeah.
And so we went in, and it was terrible, wasn't it? It was absolutely terrible.
It was very,
we just had
very
to
bad.
stand there like, yeah, right, okay, yeah. This is quite interesting. And then they kind of did the reveal and was like, so who do you think in the band shouldn't belong? And Dario just singled out the guitarist who probably set the whole band up. He was like, I think it's him because he's old. Basically.
Is that what I said? I don't remember any of this. Conveniently, I don't remember any of this at all. I mean, I'm sure it's somewhere out there, but...
But again, at the time, you're just kind of thinking exposure. We'll be on telly. They'll see the band, things like that, and it needs to be the right things, doesn't it? If you're gonna enjoy it, just go and do it, and you can only do your best, can't you? That's the main thing. Be in as many places as you can.
Tommy,
don't live together and practice as much as you can. Is something that we should take away from that.
And save as many things for a wall shrine as you possibly can.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I want one now.
No, you can't take down that Shaun of the Dead thing. I got you that for your birthday.
That is true.
I mean, Rob contributed, I think, but yeah.
20 quid or?
Anything else? Any other little little moments before we wrap it?
Just again, going back to, as I said about me mum being in the audience for the Steel Panther thing. The other one that I can't remember the place that we used to go, but it was in Manchester, and it was the place where they'd have bands on, and then afterwards it would turn into a lap dancing bar.
That was Ruby Lounge.
That was the Ruby
Was
Lounge.
it
That's
in
what
the
we...
Ruby Lounge? Oh, right, okay. It had a specific name, didn't it? But yeah, so we played the gig there. Got loads, like friends and family came down. My uncle and auntie came down. My mum was there. I invited a load of people from work in the office, and they're like quite, uptight, stuffy people. And played the show. They really enjoyed it. Next thing, like women just walking past and like bra and thong, and collectively it was like, I think it's time we left now. See you later.
No, your ticket for the show gets you free entry. You can stay. You can stay. It's fine.
Not into there. Yeah, that was good. That was funny.
Yeah, we did play some random shows, like super random. I think we played the full spectrum from radio tour shows in the back of a van.
I forgot about that as well.
No, they were cool, man. Real Excess on tour.
On the back of a trailer in the middle of a town centre in the middle of an afternoon.
The beautiful town centres of Wigan, Burnley, Widnes probably, Rochdale, of course Rochdale, twice.
Wow.
What was it that we got shut down? They wouldn't let us play, would they? The bank had complained to the police or something.
Probably. I think it was Wigan.
I think it was the first one as well, wasn't it? Like, this is going to be a strange week if like we get to play 2 songs and then get cancelled everywhere.
Were you not in the middle of exams or something? So you'd come from your exams to get to that show to then get cancelled almost immediately. So we just went to the pub instead.
Yeah.
I remember.
I've been up all night doing putting my last things in for my 3rd year. Yeah. Hadn't slept. Got in the van and went there.
I've had a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There's definitely things I don't miss, but there's clearly quite a lot of stuff that we all do. So I would just, for anyone who is still in a band or thinking about being in a band, it is still one of the greatest things you can do. I mean,
it's the best thing to do.
Not like it used to be.
I know. I'm not used to this. It's the best thing you can do in your early 20s when you have as little responsibility as possible. 100%. Wouldn't change anything. Looking back.
I mean, I wouldn't have minded being a little bit more successful.
Well,
but
yeah. It was fun to fail.
It's one big lesson. It was a lot of fun. Guys, thank you very much for coming on. It's been
My
a blast.
pleasure.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just keep doing it. Keep doing your thing, man.
I'm going to try. It is getting really light and warm outside now, though. It's getting harder and harder to do this as the pubs are open and there's people walking around. It's like, 6 o'clock on a Sunday, maybe I should go to the pub instead. But no, I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So hopefully we'll keep on making these things.
Good, man.
Anyway, gents, thank you very much. It's been only mildly traumatic and mainly
I think you've got off very lightly, to be
We
honest.
did. We're going to go and do our own Dario podcast now, where we just absolutely rip into you.
I was going to say, you've had your moment. You've had an hour and a half here. Like, you've had your chance to say something. But thank you very much, guys. Goodbye. Close it down before you say anything else.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, guys. Thanks, Joe.
Nice one. Take care, guys. Peace.
Congratulations on making it to the end of another episode of Tour Talk. You can keep up to date with us across the socials at Tour Talk Pod. So that's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Patreon. Please subscribe, comment, like, and share, and we will see you next week.